of planning rules. The density would be too dense in terms of density. Lots of sunlight, and I think lots of privacy as well. In terms of children playing, I think that's an issue, but that doesn't come into planning considerations. But I think that the fact it would reach for consideration would be enough to object to it.
Yeah, definitely design, visual appearance, impact on other buildings, loss of daylight or sunlight, layout and density of buildings, light pollution could be if there's outside lights and things going into people's homes. There are a lot of reasons that can come into this development. Would anybody else like to speak on it? Councillor Norman.
I'd like to propose we move it from the no objection list to the object list on the basis, and I'd suggest keeping it not a list 10 long, but the main one. To me, the main ones are the poor access to the site and the interference with access to other sites from a safety perspective.
Would like to
add a few more if you want.
Well,
I think overshadowing is always difficult, so I wouldn't say that one.
yeah, it's, we're not talking about
2 tens would be fair.
It's I know that your point isn't it? I think we've got to stick to planning considerations in terms of the rule of the law, but it's overshadowing lots of outlook, and I think maybe that's in the planning consideration. So I think lots of outlook there would be.
So currently it's a builder's yard that people are looking into. So you can't really say they've lost an outlook because it looks into the builder's yard. This will be looking into the back of somebody's property instead.
Also, I'm worried about the tunnel itself. There's front doors that open onto that. I mean, okay, the builder's yard, he knows there aren't that many in a day that go in and out of there, are they? I'm sure you'll agree. But with people living there, residents, they could come down there quite quickly. Somebody's coming out their front door. It's good night, Mr. Chips.
So to finish my proposal, I think we should move it onto the no objection, and
we've already done that.
That will enable it to be discussed by Dorset Council. We'll have technical details to support.
Yeah, we've already moved it into great discussion. So the proposal is
no objection.
Sorry, objection. Right. That Weymouth Town Council would like to object to this thing on the grounds your original
access, interference with access to other properties and the safety impact of that. And the last one is it's too dense for the size of the site.
Chair, can we add loss of privacy for the surrounding properties as well?
Yeah.
That's I'm going to add lots of privacy if you're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get all that down, Brad? Right, do we have a seconder for this proposal?
Yeah.
Councillor Weaving. All those in favour of the proposal? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, residents. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I get these ladies back a little more before they shut the door.
Yeah, I was long before you.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. I've done him. Not copy, I will.
We now move on to the second item now in item 5, which is Tumbledown Farm. I know that Councillor O'Rell would like to speak on this matter.
Sorry to interrupt, I think the door just broke.
Ready, John?
Yeah, yes, I'll just get it.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'll be speaking in favour of this proposal. It's the town council has few strong responsibilities. The one it does have is providing allotments, which we do well. But there is a deficiency in providing growing space for people who are marginalised and need help. So this is the bit we're filling in with Tumbledown Farm. So in effect, we're providing, community allotments, growing spaces for the people in our borough who need them the most, and we have the most deprived people in the county of Dorset living in our patch, and that's what we're addressing with Tumbledown Farm. I think we're being quite sympathetic to the area. I mean, there will be some objections from locals, which we will address, but we're being quite considerate in that we're sticking to the existing footprint of buildings that have been there since the 1930s and just replacing them with modern buildings. The Tumbledown is very apt because the buildings are a disgrace and they're dangerous, they're condemned, but not like we can't use them. So we're taking them down and replacing them with modern buildings. The one we want to do in particular will give us decent toilets. One thing that's stopping disabled groups going to the site at the moment is the lack of decent toilets because they have to use festival portaloos. So if this proposal goes forward, we'll have some decent toilets, classrooms, office spaces. And as part of it, we'll also improve the car parking. One of the objections is that we've at times had people visiting the site have parked on the road. If this proposal is accepted and goes through, the car parking will be greatly improved on site so that people won't have to park on the road anymore. So we'll address a lot of the transport concerns if this is approved. So yeah, I recommend approval. Okay.
Councillor Norman.
I'd like to supplement that by commenting that looking online at the moment, the suite of documents that was submitted is comprehensive. We took advice through a pre-planning discussion and we responded to what was suggested there. So we've addressed each of the points. There is a traffic impact assessment that's been professionally carried out. Dorset Highways have responded saying, as they do to nearly all our applications, that they'd like 2 more weeks to consider them. And that written letter they wrote was on the 3rd of September. So there's still time for individuals to respond in favour. There's 1 response in favour and 2 residents have responded about the traffic impact. Both those, I think, can be overcome. I'd like to point out also that the site brings other benefits to vulnerable adults who will be undergoing, as it says on the map, social skills development. It's called an education block in here, but it's much more about those wider skills. I'd also comment that it's talks in the application about demolishing existing buildings. That is not the case. There are no buildings. There are a number of field barns, some of which have concrete half standings, and it's those that are being taken away, those that haven't already fallen down. There is a big barn, which is building D. That's been isolated for a period because of safety concerns. And there is an old building. This is the one proper building, which is building B, which is the intention, as it says in the application, is to retain what can be retained at the 2 end walls, which is the only architectural feature on the site. So I do agree with Councillor Orrell, it's sympathetic. It's also designed to be low rise and shielded by the existing boundary of trees to not have a high visibility. So I'd certainly recommend this goes forward. So no objection means Dorset Council don't have to review it. I'd like them to review it, really, but we haven't got that choice. Sorry, I'd like to offer the council members of Dorset Council to take note of this application, is what I'm trying to say, because I think it's a valuable application for Dorset as well as me. Thank you.
Is this the item that you would like to speak on?
No, I'm here for Bowley's Cove Way.
Thank you. Councillor James.
So as being on the council since 2004, I was involved with Tumbledown many years ago when we had our old arts department, and unfortunately we got signed off as it should have done back then. So I'm asking a question that's probably not related to planning, but I'd like to know who's paying for all this work. Is it the town council or is it Dorset Council that are paying for it? Because I know we gave some funding towards it, but where's the funding coming from? It's a question that I've been asked by members of my constituency, which is South Hill. So if there's an answer, I'd like to know what it is, please.
Could I answer?
Well, you don't have to, because this is
It's not
planning.
planning.
Okay, so,
It's just-
the financial statement that came forward in the business plan was approved by full council.
Yeah.
That's on record. That's where it describes where the money is going to be coming from. The money at the moment is largely over operating costs. There's a little bit of money in for this building A development, and it identifies apart from income streams that external funding will need to make the other buildings happen. So part of it's redistribution of existing spend, but it is reliant to complete, and this is the full site application, on external funding. And we need to demonstrate success, which I think we're well on the way to doing in order to gain that funding. Thank you.
Councillor Owen,
Yes, it's not really relevant to the plan.
Yeah.
no,
So.
I think we should know.
Yes, it is useful. It's town council property.
Yeah.
It says the town council's owned it for decades
Yeah,
and it's fallen into total
Yeah,
decay of disrepair. So in effect, the council is making good one of its assets to bring it up to a standard which can be used by disabled people. So the council is investing money in it. In the long run, there should be an income stream from Dorset Council, because what we're looking to do is providing placements for adults on
Yeah.
care plans. So there would be an income stream from Dorset
Okay.
Council coming in.
so that would be the extra income stream that we're looking for, yeah, okay, thank you.
does anybody have any planning issues on top of that? Anybody? Then I think we need to vote on this, that I think the consensus is that it should be moved into the no objection. But would you like to add any note with it?
I think a note to the effect of that we commend this application for Dorset councillors because of the contributions it makes for Dorset,
For the whole of the
for
county.
the whole of the county.
Did you get that right? Yeah. So all those in favour? Do I have to have a proposer in a second? Yeah, it should do. So a proposer is councillor Northern, seconder is councillor Weaving. All those in favour? Thank you very much, committee. That's unanimous. Right. We can now move on to the following planning extras were received prior to the agenda dispatch. Does anybody wish to speak on those items? 50 St Mary Street, 116 the Esplanade, 116 the Esplanade, 81 Chappies Avenue. Does anybody wish to speak on any of those? Councillor?
116 the Esplanade, I've just checked, is one of the hotels, the Sherborne, I think. We don't have hanging box signs on the Esplanade, I don't think generally, especially illuminated ones. And I'm not sure necessarily that's the precedent we want to start. It's the Georgian seafront, it's a classical part of Weymouth.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a hanging illuminated box sign is quite in keeping.
I've got a picture of it or something. Do you mean on the outside of the hotel, that's what they want? So,
I'm imagining a bit like a pub sign.
Yeah,
yeah,
Which
that's what
doesn't
sure
seem
they've
appropriate
done on
to me as well, actually.
Mostly done. Because you wasn't going to.
Eh?
Is the Sherborne hotel? The Lawrence of Arabia hotel signage.
Can't get it. No.
Definite no from me. Ridiculous.
Rebranding.
So they want. So how do they want it hanging up?
That's a window, I don't mind that.
No, that's.
Yeah.
What do they mark it out?
So there were two signs, one on the window,
Yeah.
that's the internal signage, and then the external signage, which we could.
One last go at it. Can't go low.
Couldn't download.
Okay, well,
So we're,
let's keep it simple and object now.
I don't think we can object to the one on the window. can we?
Oh, there it is. Look, it is a pub sign.
Whereabouts is it going to go though? Does it make it clear?
Oh, so the,
Here it would go, this one,
It's on the
here,
wall.
it's a projecting light box.
that one's
It sticks
Oh,
next-
it's just flat, but I thought you meant it was going to be
yeah, it
hanging
would be
sideways
hanging,
like
so that's
a pub sign.
So this is
one point two meters deep.
Eh? Where are you reading? Oh, right, okay.
It's 1200 millimeters deep is
That's high.
1.2 meters.
Height.
High, is that height? Height,
I
yeah,
don't know.
depth is 50.
Okay. Will this not be considered
It's not.
as being a part of the conservation area? And the rules for the conservation area will be applied by Dorset Council.
Yes.
So that would be my view. Even the officers will have to follow that. We don't need us to follow that.
It just looks like it's the sign stuck on the side of the building.
It says projecting. The shadow is it.
If the light box is 1.2 meters deep, which I think must be a typo, but
Yeah.
well, I think we should object on that grounds. That's
Yeah.
enormous.
If if they haven't got it right, I think we need to find out whether they've got those measurements right then.
But maybe we put those in the comments. So if we
Yeah.
put those in the comments,
Yeah.
and then they can get it right.
Is
Because it can't be that deep.
is the pink bit above that big, is that supposed to signify anything?
So from my interpretation, this bit is going here, and then that it would be, the pink bit above would be the bracket here.
Okay.
And
You're poking out
then
sideways.
Okay.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I know they have to get permission to put things on there, wouldn't they, from someone?
Oh, yeah. Conservation area.
Well, no, they put a flashing on the hotel walls a few years ago and that's.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I remember that, yeah.
That was, yeah, I don't know.
So what is the committee's?
May I propose that we object to that on the grounds that the 1.2 meter illuminated box sign is inappropriate on a listed building in a conservation zone?
Yes.
Did you get that, Fred? Yeah. Do I have a seconder for this proposal? Okay. Councillor James? All those in favour? So that's unanimous. Fred. So the others, Chaffins Avenue, St Mary's. Anybody, are they going into the no objections, item 6?
Yes.
Yeah.
So proposer, councillor Laurel, seconder, councillor Wakeling. So we move those, yeah, I'm just going. So all those in favour? That's unanimous, Brian. Right. We can now move on to item 6.
May I suggest, as we have a member of the public here for item 11, would we be able to take item 11 for this gentleman?
Yeah,
benefit?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we'll move on to item 11.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. Would you like to open the meeting? Item 11?
I've never done one of these before. How much detail do you want me to get into?
Well, just put
That's
one.
what you want us to know.
talk away. And when you've gone too far,
Shut me up.
yeah, we'll stop it there. You, please.
It shouldn't be that complex.
No.
So this relates to the current parking enforcement that is on the south side of Bowman's Codeway. You got most of the houses on the north side, you're on the seaside is the south side. The parking enforcement is from the hours of midnight to 6 AM, and that's to say that there's no parking. The rest of the time, there's free parking. The enforcement relates to a length of the road which is from approximately just above the Harvester Pub to pretty much down to where you go into the car park for the waterside. So it's that quite long length of road. What we as residents have found is that, and by the way, the vast majority of us, not all of us, but the vast majority of us embrace having free parking there because it brings people to the area and it brings money and all those good things. But what we find that happens is that we have quite a lot of motorhomes and transit type vans parking overnight and therefore going against the parking restrictions. I got into contact with parking services to see if they could send some parking enforcement officers to hand out parking tickets to try and stop these people from parking overnight. And the lady in charge there, the operations manager, Marion Fisher, said that she appreciated our dilemma, but it was extremely rare that she could get people on shift between the hours of midnight and 6 AM. So she recommended to us to come to you guys and get it extended somewhat. Her original thoughts were 10 PM to 8 AM, but we thought that 8 AM would be a bit harsh for folks coming in for dog walking and swimming. So we're asking for 10 PM to 7 AM. So that's our application. The reason for not wanting parking overnight is that a lot of the vehicles that turn up have not got toilet or washing facilities, and unfortunately we do see people on the green going for a wee or having food and that overnight, and we have found some human excrement towards the cliff. So it's not just a bunch of Bowman's Codeway folk not wanting people to have fun. We think there's a kind of health and safety issue as well.
Thank you very much.
Can I come in on that? Quite a few years ago, when we did have the Borough Council, and my role was to do with parking, we had this come up quite a lot with Bowman's Code, and I'm pretty sure at the time something happened that we had some signage, we did something to prevent camper vans from parking up there because the same thing was happening. And somebody had to go up there from environmental health, I believe, and speak to them to say that, you know, they're not supposed to put their waste into the gullies, and things like this. So I know environmental health got involved, and I'm going back a number of years, and I'm sure there was somewhere, Marion, she would remember me, I'm sure there was some extra signage that could have been put up to prevent camper vans, so you could have your restrictions on time, but there was something about specifically aimed at not having camper vans. So I don't know whether we can find out whether that still is in existence and whether we can do it. Other than that, I think looking at restricted hours could be a way, but also I think environmental health maybe need to be going up and having a look as well.
We don't have any signs there restricting camper vans. There's nothing there at the moment.
Right.
Councillor Norton.
Thank you. I did a little tour today of the Swanery car park, the Lodmore car park. I also walked my dog along Bowley's open space. It is a wonderful open space, and it's a real benefit for the public and visitors alike. And there is, I think there is a problem with overnight camping there in camper vans. There is nowhere at the moment in Weymouth other than private campsites on the outskirts of Weymouth for people to go to. And on the, I wrote to Dorset Council as part of the Levelling Up Fund bid, recommending that they consider putting in a motorhome parking at the Mount Pleasant Park and Ride site, along with other suggestions for the Mount Pleasant Park and Ride site. I wrote on the 15th of June. I got a response from Owen Clark on the 20th of June, assuring me that they are considering what I badged an integrated electric transport hub at Park and Ride. And I then sent him some pictures and suggestions as to how that can go on and time with some other things. And I've heard a rumour that this is now in the Levelling Up Fund bid that's been submitted by Dorset Council. I'm trying to get confirmation of that, but at the moment, unless a Dorset Council can tell me, nobody seems to know what's in the bid. So rather than, this isn't a campaign against camper vans, this is try and find somewhere sensible for them to go to. I'm worried that by extending the no camping period, the no parking period, will rule out everybody, not just camper vans, for a longer period. And on the 24th of June, Dorset Council issued a press release saying that they were cracking down on camper van overnight parking. Unfortunately, it went on to say only in the car parks that they run. So it doesn't address the street problem, which is the concern there. So I'd like to suggest, because there are people who walk their dog very early in the morning, and stopping them parking until 8 o'clock, I agree as well. And I'd suggest, with the light summer mornings we get, that 6 a.m. would still be preferable. It's unlikely that people will turn up at 6 a.m. If they want to camp overnight, the bulk of the night will have already gone through. So I would support extending the period earlier in the evening in order that the Dorset Council officials don't have to work past midnight. But I do think we should stick with the 6 a.m. to allow people to park and exercise their dogs. And there are also people swimming down at Bowleys Cove and Overcombe Corner on a regular basis. So that's what I would like to suggest, that we don't follow the suggestion there, but make it 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Councillor James?
I'm just going to reiterate something that I worked on years ago, before David was on council, before I think any of you were, and that was again working with Alan Muncaster, who was a borough engineer. We actually had plans drawn up to have heirs located at Longmore Car Park. They were agreed, all the engineering work was agreed, and that was when Bob Savage was here. It was agreed, it was actually put onto the parking review and agreed. Unfortunately, a certain member of the council at the time decided that it would inflict too much of a problem on holiday camps in his ward, and he persuaded councillors to take it off the agenda. Since then, Alan Muncaster and myself have spoken to people at Dorset Council many times, and they have assured us that they will be looking into what is known as airs that they have on the continent, where you can pull up in your camper van, hook up, use all the waste. So if we can get that up and running, if we can get these people in the camper vans, we had a cycle and ride scheme and everything, and it all got kicked out by one particular councillor. I'm happy to agree some changes of timing. I think 7 o'clock is fine, but I mean, it depends what the majority of councillors think, whether they think 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. But I think if it's a way of helping solve the problem, but I think would we have to get environmental health to go and look through fire planning, or would it have to be somebody
No,
else?
it's not planning.
So no, but we can ask. That's what I'm saying. So
My recommendation that we can put it down in action.
Right, okay.
But I'd also suggest that
yeah,
local residents.
Yes, and I think, yeah. please, if we can
resident
put that
or
down as an action, or if the resident can, yeah, because I think they need to be
On
informed.
their behalf.
I wanted to come back.
Yes, I just wondered, because Marion Fisher was very keen for 8 o'clock, and she did agree to 7 after listening to our arguments. I just wondered if she would have the staff to go at 10 p.m. or whether the shifts are early shifts.
If you're going to have But Dorset Council are responsible for parking enforcement. They need to make sure they have the staff to cover the periods in which they set the rules. It's not for us to change the rules in order that their staff can not work late. But accepting that midnight is a difficult one. They actually lock the Swannery car park, sorry, the Lodmore car park at midnight. So somebody is turning up at midnight to lock the Swannery car park. They might not the Swannery car
There
park.
was no
sorry, the
graveyard shift.
Lodmore car park. So there are people working late. So I don't think it's what we think is right from a parking point of view there. And I'm happy to bring it, I would support bringing it forward to 10 o'clock, but resist delaying it until 7 o'clock.
Councillor Burton.
Yeah, so this is just about timing at the moment. So, and I do know there are a couple of running groups that run and then go into the sea, usually around 7:30ish. So it's just a question of timing, I think. So I think David's nearly right on that one. So what can I just ask the resident what he thought of David's suggestion?
i.e. being 10 till 6.
Superb that it's 10, but I'm just a bit concerned that Marion was very keen to have it a little bit later in the morning.
It doesn't mean they have to turn up and bump people off. What I'm suggesting is that by having it early, they will discourage people, because the principal thing is not stopping overnight. So catching them when they're parking up at 10 o'clock at night is the important bit, not trying to get them after the event at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m.
Completely see that. I just wondered if they actually had people on shift as early as 6.
They must have, otherwise why have such
They've always
rules?
had graveyard or vampire shifts, but I don't think they've got that many important officers as they used to have to cover the whole of Dorset, so I don't know.
Councillor Wakefield.
Thank you, Chairman. I've just discussed the matter in front of us, which is the proposal here.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with the, thank you for the resident for coming and the ward member for supporting it. My only concern is it doesn't say 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. That says 10 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is a whole different time.
Yeah.
So yes, that would be an extremely restrictive parking restriction.
Is that right?
Our report says 10 a.m. till 7 a.m., which
We've not got an AM or PM on these.
I read that as 10 a.m.
Eh?
No, Oakset. Yeah.
But that's my only comment, just to clarify, it is 10 p.m, 2200 hours till 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, Oakset, yeah.
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 I'm happy with that.
But I'd like to propose 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in order to not restrict ordinary people from parking early in the morning, because I know the objection. I looked up, you can ban in car parks that are run motorhomes, but you can't ban motorhomes from parking on the street. You have to ban all cars, I believe, from parking on the street. I don't want to ban all cars from parking. So by narrowing that window, keeping that window to the night time, I think, and opening it up early in the morning, you're not stopping cars using it from 6 o'clock. Because it's a wonderful spot for people to stop and watch sunrise and look at the sea changing.
Right, so we have a proposal to that, change it to recommending the proposal would extend the restricted no parking on Moleysco Way to 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's your proposal, isn't it?
Yes, David, thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that? We have a seconder in Councillor Weaving. All those in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour. All those against? And any abstentions? 2 abstentions. So how are we going to word this to?
So
Majority.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to propose to Dorset
no, this
Council.
is what the request going for Dorset Council for assessment.
Yeah.
With revised times.
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
to 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
In order to that early morning car park is enabled.
It's not taken away. It's not
Not taken
taken
away.
residents.
Yeah.
Have we got that, Fred? Right. We can now go back. I don't think there's anything else on that part, item 11.
So the next, the next step is that we'll submit that for you, like on your behalf, and that will happen in the next few days, some point this week. And we'll put your contact details, I believe, so you can keep updated on how that progresses.
Thank you very much, councillors.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't forget to get in touch with environmental health.
Yes.
Don't report.
If not, contact your councillor and ask him to do it. We all on your behalf.
Or better still, councillor Ferrari, because he is a Dorset councillor and has more sway.
Okay, I'll get that to Tony. And that's for, to get to say no to motorhomes parking overnight. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
But that's, I think, what was brought up in the conversation. You can't just discriminate. I think it has to be all vehicles. There's no parking. You can't discriminate against cars, motorhomes, motorbikes.
Except in a car park.
Except in the car park, but not on the highway.
Right.
It's very, very. I wasn't very close to 9 years, so.
Are you going to let the,
Yes.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Kate. Right, we can now move on to item 7. If I'm reading it correctly.
Item 6, Chair.
I was just, I'm number 6, yeah. We went
Right.
from 6, we went from 5 to 11.
Yeah, we have no objection to it on block.
We haven't done that.
No.
So we go to item 6. Which is all the planning applications of no objection. Okay. All those in, would anybody else like to comment on that? Any other item in item 6? That's fine. No, so all those, could I have a proposer that we,
No objection.
no objection? Yeah, proposed by councillor James, seconded by councillor Weaving. All those in favour? That's unanimous. We can now go to item 7. Planning application responded under delegated powers. There are none. We can now move to item 8, licence enforcement appeals and phone mass. There are none. Oh. Appeals, sorry, there is some appeals. Start with storage land and premises at Western Road, Weymouth. The appeal will be determined on the basis of written representation. Have we all got that one? There. No, we'll go back. Right. On this item, yes, councillor Wakeman.
Thank you, Chair. I think I attended this committee previously to speak on this item, as it's in my ward. And yes, we've previously objected to it. It was objection at overlooking from this onto the Garibaldi Close and loss of daylight. And was this the over? They put 2 in very short succession. But I think the recommendation is fine here that we return the same comment again effectively to the appeal. They're asking for a written submission. Basically repeat our previous submission.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Just repeat our previous submission.
Which was at the time the committee members voted unanimously in favour of submitting a comment that the application is a vast improvement on the previous one. However, concerns remain about the angling of security lighting and the protection of the historic stone wall that runs between the development site and Garibaldi.
So this was the second one, which was much smaller.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
Just to say that it says about you only have to submit further representation and that they've already been submitted.
that is, yeah. So we don't have to submit that we agree with our previous comments. We don't have to. No, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we don't do the recommendation.
Then we come to 9B Sycamore Road. This was previously in returning a comment of no objection in relation to the planning application. So do we stick with our previous comment? Again, do we need?
Vote on both of them last two, so they-
Yeah.
you can see who-
So the proposal is that we go with the recommendations of,
Sorry, Chairman, why is this going to appeal then if we raised our objection?
because Dorset Council
They
might
objected.
objected to it.
They objected to it.
Well, obviously, yeah,
Dorset refused and the applicant has appealed.
yeah. And it goes in front of the judge then. Yeah.
I think it's hard for people in the planning department in Dorset, work from home, and also they don't know the area of when.
So on both items, in item 8, isn't it? Item 8, right? We vote to stick with the original comments.
Yeah.
Whoever proposed it, in councillor James, seconded by councillor Weaving, sorry, Mayor. All those in favour? That's unanimous, Brad. We come to item 9, sitting out licence applications, which there are none this time. Item 10, other development consultations, none. Item 11, which we've discussed with the member of the public, has been completed. We come to item 12, traffic regulation orders, there are none. Item 13, which is information items. Would anybody like to comment on any of the information items that are currently on show? You know, David's coming back.
I think David's taking me out for dinner.
Please. So continue.
Yeah, but the next item, which hasn't got its own schedule, is a verbal update will be provided by councillor Norman.
We're outside. So
Yeah.
Can he get back in? Has he locked himself?
No, but-
Don't let them in there, don't let them in.
Keeps the meeting short.
Here he is.
We're on item 14 now.
Yeah.
Verbal update, please, David.
Oh,
Update.
yes, sorry, I do apologise. I wasn't going to say very much because there's a full council item coming tomorrow, which has a full report that's updated from the previous one I gave to planning and licensing. Will that suffice, Chair?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, we've got to listen to it twice, haven't we?
Right, we come to item 14, which is emergency items, which I am not aware of any.
The only thing I was going to ask Chairman, Councillor Weaver made a statement, I think, found difficulty with the seating arrangements,
Yes,
which I agree with that. So
yes.
the only way this can be changed, and I've done this as well, the tag meeting, the only way this can be changed is if it's raised before council
Yes.
agree to change it. So I'm just wondering if people agree with what Anne said, and I do, should we put a suggestion up? I think Christine did. as
You
well.
need to put a notice.
Should we put a suggestion up to the full council that we'd like to revert back to normal seating arrangements? But I don't think it's conducive to people that attend either.
Planning needs to be more formal. It is a formal
Yes,
committee.
it's a formal
And planning,
committee.
we need to have the chair and vice chair sat where we can watch the screen
Yeah.
and not keep turning around. So I'm not clicking my neck at the time.
Could I make a suggestion here that you just sit on the side and we still have the tabletops?
No,
Let me, okay, I don't support moving away from this arrangement, but I do agree that it's crazy for you to have to turn round. And I think it's easy to solve that problem so that you don't turn round while still maintaining this.
This is, it's not for planning, this is just a thing. So I'm going to close the meeting.
Yeah, good idea.
Because the motion should be brought up tomorrow. and it can be put to full council and voted on.
I think it's too late to put in a notice of motion.
It's too late now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So I now declare planning and licensing committee meeting closed.
Thank you.
Good night.
If I may point out, the problem with you two with your backs to the screen will not be solved by going to the
It will do. Believe me, Luke, it will do, because I've been. We would sit on one side, the chair and the vice chair was on the other side of the officers, and the screen was at the end, and we would look, all be able to look to the side at the screen. The public could sit where they wanted around the outside. So that's